State Representative Michelle Beckley, thank you so much for joining us. This is the first time we've actually spoken with you since you entered the runoff for the Democratic primary for Lieutenant Governor against Mike Collier. So first, your thoughts on the runoff and what is your plan to win?
We're going to keep continuing what we did. The thoughts on the runoff is we pretty much are where we expected to be based on polling and just what the expectations of the candidate. And when you have three candidates, then you usually do have a runoff. So we're kind of exactly where we thought we would be. We're going to continue reaching out directly to voters, and we believe in direct voter contact, and our team is going to continue doing what we have done. And at the end of the day, it makes for a better campaign for everybody because the competition is stronger, and we do need a strong Democratic ticket statewide to flip this state.
And let me ask you, because most of the time we've seen historically that fewer voters go out and vote in the runoff. So how are you going to energize your supporters and make sure that they get to the polls?
Sure. I mean, we have been working, you got to keep going. I am the Democrat. I am the one who's been the Democrat the longest in this race, like my entire life. And I am an elected official. I am definitely the stronger candidate. Having been elected, I know the viper's den that we are going to be walking into if we flip this state. You have to remember that the Senate will be controlled by Republicans due to the gerrymandering, and the House, we will be dealing with both of those. And I think we need a strong fighter, and I'm a proven fighter. I have a proven record, and I stand by my record.
And so let me ask you, because if you are to be elected, how would you work with a Republican-controlled legislature and be able to pass an agenda that you would like, given the fact that the political cards, if you will, would be stacked against you?
Well, I think what you would see is more balance coming out of Texas than this far right extreme rhetoric and policies that are quite frankly hurting and killing people. I mean, we have to deal with the fact that these transgender attacks are attacks on one of the highest suicide individuals in the state, and they are continuing. And Dan Patrick is one of the worst offenders. He has been since 2018, 2019 legislative session, and they're continuing with these attacks. And I'm not afraid to go out and say that I stand with our transgender youth and their families, and we should not be using our CPS system to be attacking these families. You come for one, you come for all of us.
What are your legislative priorities and the issues that you are most focused on right now, especially during this runoff period?
I'm going to keep harping on the Medicaid expansion, fully legalizing cannabis and decriminalizing. We need to go back and expunge records. I'm a small business owner. Small businesses really have a hard time finding the health insurance for themselves and their employees. You can't live the Texas dream of owning your own business if you are just so tied to health insurance in your current job. And so we need to keep addressing that. And we are leaving so much money on the table. We also have to address the fact that we have an education crisis. And last I checked, our coffers, we have a $12 billion surplus, and that was in November. So that after the December reporting, I'm sure the coffers are even fuller. And I believe we should address our education crisis right now. We have teachers leaving, we have students that are being left behind. Robin Hood has been an absolute fiasco for Texas.
And so what are you suggesting? What are your ideas to fix this issue?
So for the Medicaid expansion, we take the Medicaid expansion, we go on for there. For the education, we continue with what we did in 2018 and 2019 legislative session, which was working on revamping the entire way we are funding our schools. That was a start. And the reason we started that was because 12 state house seats flipped, including the one I'm sitting on, where I beat the author of the bathroom bill. And when the Republicans were afraid, they started moderating. And when you look at that legislative session compared to this last legislative session and the far right extreme, I don't even know if they're policies, because we don't have a working grid. We have a non-functioning DMV, or Department of Public Safety. We can't get a driver's license in a timely manner. You have so many issues. Our CPS is crumbling. We could keep listing all of our infrastructure that isn't working. At some point, the businesses are going to step in, just like they did with the voting rights in the transgender bill. And the businesses will step in. And it's pretty sad that it comes to these extreme policies, and then we are forcing our businesses to put ads in papers to try to tone it down. We should be focusing on what Texans need. And I promise that's what I will do when I get back in there, just like I did, as we are here. And I am a political outsider. I'm a bird store owner that got so fed up with the politics in Texas that I flipped a state house seat that nobody thought I was going to win in 2018. I didn't have support then, and very little support now on a statewide races. There's just no resources for our statewide Democratic ticket.
I was just going to ask you, how do you think a Democrat can win a statewide ticket against Dan Patrick, especially because he is not having to go through a runoff as you in the Democratic Party are going through?
I think going through a runoff is just making us stronger. And so we are going to have a base that knows who we are. It is forcing us into working more closely with the infrastructure of our party. And it does need strengthening. Like, I don't think that anybody will debate that. But we're not the only ticket that is having a runoff. Almost every statewide has a runoff. So we are going to be, as a unit, stronger once we get there. And when you have so many people who've never run for office before, this is a really good learning curve for them, as well as those of us who have ran and won before.
And then my last question to you is, given the fact that this is a midterm election year nationally, and all of the polls have suggested that this is going to be a good year for Republicans, what impact is that going to have on you or my colleague, whoever wins the runoff and becomes the nominee? What impact is that going to have in being able to win statewide here in Texas?
Texas doesn't always follow national politics. And so we are kind of our own entity here. And I think that's why people love Texas so much, and the Texas spirit, and why people keep moving here and have been moving here. I think the reality is we have to keep addressing these far right extreme policies that I don't even know if you can call them policies, because they really aren't helping people, and they're really just, I don't even know what they are. They're just extremism, and they're not addressing the functioning government. And I think we just keep staying on message, and the Democrats have gotten stronger since 2018. You've got to remember Beto's on the ticket again. I would love to have, some of the Castro brothers on this ticket with us, because certainly we could all use all the strength we can, but for whatever reason, other elected officials just don't step up. And I think that's one of the problems the Democrats are facing in Texas, is very few elected officials will step up and run to the next level. And so it's been chronic like this. And we need a person with experience, as well as the passion that we need going into this cycle.
All right, Michelle Beckley, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you, Jack. You too. Bye-bye.